Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular council meeting for November 1st, 2017. Following the call to order Pledge of Allegiance, first item is approval of the agenda. Council, there are a few changes tonight. Under number 2, consent agenda C, the judge didn't get that report in, so we can strike that one out. Down under number 4, action items B, public hearing, that's been changed from legislative to quasi-judicial procedure for the zoning designations. And other than that, I'll accept a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. At the last council meeting, we asked the sewer line collection design be postponed until we had further information, and I didn't really see any further information in here. Is something going to be presented?
You have handouts and stuff here.
The same?
There was no date certain you put on that motion, so we just put it back, keep working on it.
I'm in the process of doing some research on that, so I would kind of like to remove that for the time being if possible.
Council,
Mr. Mayor, a point of order. You can't remove something from an agenda. You can postpone it. You can table it. You can do many, many things, but you cannot remove it.
Okay, I would like to table it for further research.
Table it to a date certain, please.
When are we going to have the information from HDR about our wastewater treatment plant and its capacity and that? I would like it to the meeting after that.
Unknown. The plan has to be completed and then reviewed by any meeting, so I do not have a date for that.
Mr. Mayor, point of order. I think we're discussing this topic currently. I think we need to move on with approving the agenda as is and get to that topic when we get there. Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve this evening's agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion's been made and second to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Next item is the consent agenda. That consists of the town council meeting minutes for October 18th, the joint town council planning zoning workshop meeting minutes for October 4th, and the financial report for the month of October.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda.
Second.
And it's removed the judge's report. Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
I have a discussion on the financial report.
Oh, go ahead.
I still would like to discuss why the chamber invoice was changed from the amount budgeted to the amount paid without council input.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I believe we've approved and voted on the financial report for the month of October. If this is a discussion item, I suggest it be added to a future agenda.
I would like to add this to the next agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I thought she had asked for it to be added to this agenda. That
We discuss it.
we discuss it.
I don't recollect that, but
I was told that it was not available last month, so I had to wait till this month. So I'm ready to discuss it next month. I would like it on the next agenda.
and that's in the bills here.
Mm-hmm.
Got a motion and a second to approve tonight's consent agenda.
We already voted on it, Mr. Mayor.
Already
Thank
voted
you.
on it. All right. That brings us to item number 3, then discussion items. First up is Santa Fe County Treasurer's Office Property Tax Outreach Program. Mr. Pat Varela, Santa Fe County Treasurer. Pat, come on up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council, Town Council, and members. Again, I'm coming to announce my property tax outreach program that we do every tax collection season at the Edgewood Senior Center on 114 Quill Trail. We're going to be here 3 times this season. It will be November 6th, the 13th, and the 27th. The times are from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m., and we'll be accepting money orders, credit cards, and checks and cashier's checks. No cash because of security reasons. And the Councilwoman Holly, sorry, brought up a good point. If you look at your new bills now, it's more transparent, so we have everything detailed and broken down. So your neighbors might not have the same exact one as you do because there was a different bond sale now. So your neighbors might have that new one while you don't, and vice versa. So, and then the school districts, they all change different. So I broke it down more transparent this year, so you'll see a little bit of difference in there. Other than that, I'm here to answer any questions if you need it, or
I didn't catch the end date, what time?
from 10:30 to 1 p.m.
1.
Yes, and they'll be November 6th, 13th, and the 27th. And I did print some of these out, and I'll give them to your clerk here.
Yes, I will see you.
Yeah. So again, we bring my office basically to the town of Edgewood. So if there's any questions or if you have any concerns about meals, where they're going, we're here to answer them.
May I make a statement? I went in, and this lovely gentleman studying behind the computer asked if he could help me, and I said, oh, yes, please. And I said, are you staff? You work for the county? He said, yes. And your name, sir? Patrick Varela. So I didn't even recognize him as the treasurer, sitting there behaving like a public servant. Go figure.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like to visit the communities. I think it's important as an elected official to know who your constituents are.
Right, and to come as a public servant instead of a public master. That's impressive.
Thank you.
That's it, Patrick. I don't have anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you for
All
coming
the
out.
business.
We'll be looking forward to bringing you our money.
Right, and enjoy the moon tonight on your way home.
Oh, yeah, it's nice. I saw it coming up here.
Yeah, it's going to be fabulous.
Great big giant monster.
Next item is public comment on general matters. We have Mr. Tappan Mahoney.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Mr. Varela, don't leave. I got my tax bill today. It's larger than it was last year. Very much so. I'm just kidding. Mayor and Council, a couple of things. It was a rocky start, but I didn't catch where the financial report was actually approved.
It was approved in the consent agenda, and the consent agenda was voted upon.
Okay, and so the discussions was under the discussion for the financial or the consent agenda?
No,
The discussions about the financial report was under the motion?
it should have been before the motion and vote. However, it came after. Therefore, it needs to be added to another agenda.
My point is, I guess, is that you all approved the financial report. After all the discussion, it was approved under the consent agenda.
I believe that's correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I am here to talk about some of the to provide comments to the minutes you all just approved for October 18th. I was here for part and was not here for others, so I delivered in with reading. I did not have time to listen to the audio, but I read what was typed, and I want to point some items I would like specifically clarified regarding my comments. Please put these in the minutes for this meeting. Number one, my comment was you are applying apples to bricks in your technical memorandum to the PER. They are not comparing the two of the same things. I specifically noted that the current plant is not adequate in size to provide wastewater service for the service area that's being designed at this time by Smith Engineering. I also specifically made note the presentation did not address hardness. The only aspect of hardness that was addressed was by Juan Torres, stating that the intent was to continue to purchase membranes. I also would like to make note that the line extension, I made note the line extension should be within the commercial corridor of State Road 333 and 344 because of the fact that the town was funded for the wastewater system to serve that area due to high contamination of nitrates and other constituents in the groundwater. Those were the three major topics I like to make sure are recorded in the minutes of this meeting that were not presented in the minutes of the meeting of October 18th. Regarding the part I was not here for and reading the minutes for this item, whatever B it is, sewer connection discussion, I guess I had a question and a comment that there was a comment made by the counselor, or a question made by the counselor why the Councilor Abraham, why the focus was to residential areas. Mayor made a comment that it was to dilute the commercial waste. Just to clarify, Mayor, do you believe that there's no commercial waste of any kind that would dilute the current concentrations?
Do I believe that there's no commercial that would dilute what's currently out there?
Yes.
I suppose if it was the right stuff, it could, I guess the motels would be considered commercial, and if it comes online, then it would dilute somewhat.
Sure. Just a point of record, that is something for clarification, because there are commercial establishments that would provide benefit and reduce the concentrations that are degrading the condition of the current plant. Specific to Ms. Salazar's comments, there was a comment made regarding the, Councilor Abraham asked why at the time the Dennis Engineering Company was not asked to provide further analysis of the existing plant, and there was comment made to a contract being terminated, or actually, I think it was another word used, resigned from the town. Dennis Engineering Company terminated a contract for a drainage report due to lack of payment, which was subsequently discussed in mediation session. Dennis Engineering Company has not terminated a contract for wastewater service, of which the PER was prepared. That contract was not terminated. I would also like to make note that at the time the memorandum was discussed and you all were considering the memorandum, I came to a council meeting and the PR was not approved, and in the minutes you will see, I believe in the March timeframe, I recommended the PR not be approved if there was question regarding its content and the information presented in there for the town. That if you had further consideration or items to be discussed, our recommendation was not to approve the PER until those were addressed. The town did elect to move forward and approve the PER, and at the same time enter into a contract for the technical memorandum. I had one question that was specific to Mr. Torres' statement. That was the NMED had asked that a technical memorandum be done, and that the town has been told that by multiple funding agencies they would not fund a plant. What multiple agencies provided that statement to you, sir?
Mr. Mahoney, I believe this is public comment. I can answer your question if you'd like to give me a call later.
Sure. Because I don't believe that is the case. The service area, just to make sure, and indeed, Ms. Salazar, your statement that Smith Engineering did not pick the service area in the PER, that is a correct statement. That was done by the mayor. I was at that meeting. And the fact that in the minutes of the meeting, it mentions that that is the area being designed, actually the design under contract with Smith Engineering extends beyond that service area. And that is identified in a contract that the mayor and Juan have signed with Smith Engineering. I also have a question, and maybe a statement to council is, there's a statement here by Ms. Salazar brought up that phase 1 is an actual design and it will be constructed, period. If that's the case, why is this coming before council for approval if it's already a unilateral decision that's been already determined? Why is that coming to council?
I believe it's coming to council for discussion. We haven't made a decision as to what will be built or which area will be built. That is for discussion. That is why we are having a discussion.
Point of record, in the minutes, that was approved tonight, October 18th.
Something will be built, yes.
Phase 1 is identified
Whatever we
as,
deem to be phase 1.
okay, but this is identified as Phase 1.
Whatever we deem to be phase 1.
So the Phase 1 presented by Smith Engineering is
Not
not,
necessarily what they presented, what we deem to be phase 1.
and it will be constructed?
We will do a construction, yes, eventually, at some time in the future when the funding is available.
So, just to clarify, the phasing...
Just like all of the other projects that have been built, just like the projects that you have been involved in. When we had the money, we did what we needed to. Several of the projects that were built with no connections. They're there, they're in the ground, they're there for future use. You were involved in those, were you not?
No, sir, I was not.
That's incorrect, sir.
Tell me where. This
But
is,
Walker Road,
Walker Road was designed with connections,
who's connected to it?
with service connections.
Who's connected to it?
Uh,
What business? What residence? There are none. Do not try and tell me there are.
No,
There are none.
You're correct.
Yes. So am I correct in saying that you have been involved in sewer projects and you know exactly how these go?
I have been involved, but I can tell you,
Have you been involved, yes or no?
I have been involved, if you let me answer the question, how I will answer the question, not how you may want me to answer the
No,
question.
I just want a yes or no. And that's how I want you to answer the question.
And that's my point. I'm not going to answer how you want.
Okay.
I have been involved with a number of,
We're coming up, we've
I
went way
understand.
past 2 minutes.
and I understand it was a
Been
comment
quite
session.
generous.
So yes, as in many other occasions with others, so thank you. I have been involved with a number of projects where the scope of a contract was brought forth before the governing body for approval before it was executed. And within that scope, it was known at that time to all those involved on the governing body what was going to be done. It was not to the fact where there was a contract signed and then later phasing plans were brought forth that were 95% designed for phase 1, 30% designed for subsequent phases, and then the council was asked to make a decision to approve the 95% design. That's my answer. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. There's no other names on here. Would anybody else like to speak tonight? Public comment? If not, we'll move along. Put this back. Next items, matters from the mayor. We got a couple tonight. One, we've got construction underway out here on the old fire station. You can see they're working on a new sidewalk and stuff, and then on the inside, they're framing up the walls for the offices in there in that big room. And progress moving along on it. Cool. The next thing I had was the
I
ribbon.
have a question. Do we have like a conceptual design of what that's gonna look like when they're done?
Have they got to something like that?
Mayor, council, we just have a basic floor plan.
Yeah, that's what they're working off of too. I don't think they have a conceptual of what the outside's gonna look like.
What about the inside? Can we get the floor plan?
We can try to find you a floor plan if you want to see one.
That would be nice.
Mr. Mayor, it would have been nice to see it prior to construction, certainly.
Mayor, council, I don't know if you recall, we did bring all this forth.
I was thinking we'd had all that in here.
We talked about it, but we didn't see design.
I've got copies of a floor plan, I'm aware of it.
Okay,
It was handed out at a council meeting several months ago.
all right. If I could
I
get a
slept
copy of
since
that, I
then.
would appreciate it.
The other item then is the ribbon cutting we had for the new motel over there. That was last Thursday, the 26th. It's very well attended, had the lobby pretty full of people. They weren't ready quite that day to open. I think they were going to try that today or tomorrow. And
I drove by it tonight, it says now open.
now open, okay, so they got it open.
And there's cars in the parking lot.
There you go. Still had a few things they were working on. What he was held up on was a inspection from CID on his HVAC system, but they went ahead with it. Like I say, great turnout. Hope it's a good working thing for Scott and his family. And then the other one, of course, reminder, Friday we've got the groundbreaking for First Choice out there next to the fire station at noontime, 3 municipal way. Don't know how many people will show up for that.
What time was it again?
At noon, high noon, 12 p.m. Krista Kelly there that's been working hardest on that, she's come down with some health issues, and she may not be there, but the invitation list is extensive, so hopefully we'll have a pretty good turnout. A lot of county people will be down here for that. A lot of county people will be down here. That's all I've got tonight on that. I have some other stuff maybe for later, but let's move along to matters from counselors. Counselor Holly?
Well, I want to say thanks to all who worked so hard to get the trunk and treat event underway yesterday. It was a resounding success. Chief says 1,500 trick-or-treaters came out. I was there handing out candy, and that's the one thing, I know we'll do it again next year because it'll get bigger and better. It would really help if more of the community could be there handing out candy. I don't know how many vehicles we had there, but I know some of the kids are making 2 trips, 3 trips. But anyway, it was great, and there were activities in the building as well, like a haunted house and cakewalk, I think you had. And it was just very well done. Thank you, Chief, and James, and Carla, and Juan. I still got to tell you folks, too, about the great academy that our police department is putting on. I'm going to tell you about it until it's done. Since our last meeting, one of the presentations was on gangs and drugs, and last week it was on crime scene investigation, and that one in particular, they had us do hands-on investigating, and I'm not going to spoil it for next time. You folks are going to sign up and do it, but it was a lot of fun and very interesting. Finally, I want to let you know that we did receive a thank you from the Scouts that came to visit with us before our last council meeting. This is Pack 185 Cub Scouts, Weeblos 2, Den 5. So they followed up with the thank you for our time visiting with them. That's it.
Counselor Abraham?
I just need to apologize for not making it to the ribbon cutting. My mother fell that afternoon. I spent the afternoon in the hospital. She's still there. And that's all I have.
Counselor Simmons?
Well, I tried to get to the trick or treat. Couldn't get close, at least close enough to get there with a cane in the dark. I think I could have done it in the light, but not in the dark. I was so impressed with the ribbon cutting for the hotel. That's a lovely addition to the town. Something came up in discussion there, though, that after the fire department had approved the plans, they came back and required some $60,000 in additional stuff. Now, I'm mystified as to what that could have been. I knew that the HVAC was different from anything that the construction industries was used to, because it's a heat exchanger, and they're used to something more straightforward than heat exchanging. But I'm nonplussed at the power that the fire department has. there doesn't seem to be any checks or balances. Nothing like, is a system designed performance-based or simply because they dictate? And I know of situations out here where they have arbitrarily said no 6-inch lines, you'll put 8-inch lines. Nothing about performance-based or engineering study. It just simply was mandated. And I really would like to know why they have such power to, change after the fact, after they've approved something. This is not the first time I've heard of it. I heard of something in Silver City where right before the grand opening, the fire chief said, well, you're going to have to change that electrical thing, which was another expense that they hadn't planned on. So I'm just concerned about what is their authority and how limited or unlimited is it?
Yeah.
And, could they come into, say, our buildings and say, whoops, you didn't get it right yet? Have they approved our plans?
I believe they have, haven't they? Yeah,
Okay.
They looked at it there with CID as well.
Okay, but if they come back on something because they didn't either see it correctly, see it thoroughly, I'm on my guard, I suppose. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Abrams.
Well, I don't have a whole lot for this evening, but an apology for not being at the last meeting. My youngest daughter is going through some rather difficult times, and I had to attend to a few things there. I did make it to the hotel opening, which was really kind of nice. It was nice to see that come to fruition finally. Missed trunk or treat. I was once again dealing with my youngest daughter's maladies. And with that, I'll hand it back.
All right. Next item then is action items. First.
Clerk Treasurer.
Yeah.
Mayor, Council, I just have a couple quick things. As I was discussing with Councilor Abraham, Carla and I are attending election school, and we did look up one of the things that we had discussed at the last meeting was the alcohol sales. And it appears that the governing body can only repeal or put it on the ballot for repealing beer and wine sales only. So if we want to do a complete total, we have to have a petition from the public. So we will get with our attorney as soon as we get out just to get more information on that and just verify. But that's, reading the statute, that's what it does appear to be.
Any idea how many signatures it's going to require?
I'm not sure on that, so that's
A
what.
percentage of voters or something?
It said 10%.
Okay. Go ahead.
Ask that 10% of registered voters or 10% of voters in the last, that voted in the last election?
10% of eligible voters in the municipality.
Eligible voters, not eligible, that's true.
And so that was that on the alcohol sales. We're going to, once again, gearing up for the election. We'll try and put links to the Secretary of State site, maybe get some stuff on the signs and just in our posting locations to get people out there to register for vote. We'll hopefully have the resolution either at the next meeting or the first meeting in December calling for the election.
Right.
We'll get the calendar laid out and
Need the moratorium on annexation.
so we'll come with all of that. Hopefully, like I said, if we can get everything together for next meeting, if not, it'll be the first meeting in December. And then the other thing I had was just I wanted to thank James for all of his hard work at the wastewater plant. About 3 weeks ago, went out there and our water level at the pond was lapping at the top. So we've been EPCOR started releasing it on the ground. Well, it was starting to go off of our property. So the road department built the berms. James has gone in there and kind of modified it. So just to make sure the water's not going off, but the pond is now starting to drain down. So hopefully we don't have that winter problem. But yeah, I just wanted to thank James for that. And I guess since Chief's not on the agenda, I just wanted to add, I don't know, you'll see at least right now, one more vehicle, a new truck driving around, and there'll be another one driving around shortly as soon as Chief gets his vehicle. Apparently, our chief has a vehicle with the governor on it, so if he's chasing you, just go ahead and take off. You can't catch. No, I'm just kidding. But that's all I have.
Very restricted government. Mr. Torres, do you have an idea, though, that it's for sure 10% of, like, the registered voters?
No, Mayor, Council, that's why I want to check with our legal just to verify.
Okay. So we need to get on Randy for that, and then call up there to the county clerk, and I've got the old list I had at the last time. I vaguely remember about 2,500, 2,600 or something.
With our annexation, that will increase.
Yeah.
But I do believe time will be of the essence to get that on. I think we have until, I want to say, mid-December to get all ballot options approved and up to the county clerk to put on the ballot.
Mr. Torres, you're going to check with which attorney, Municipal League's attorney or the town attorney?
Mayor, Council, both.
Okay, because I
Randys.
was going to say it would be cheaper to go Municipal League in the interest of,
We can check with Matt Black, yeah.
so I wouldn't see why we would need both attorneys.
Mayor, Council, it's just, if we can get a quick response from the Municipal League attorney, then definitely. But sometimes Mr. Van Vleck, I mean, he has 106 municipalities asking him questions, so sometimes he's a little delayed in responding to us.
You know, he has a cell phone, and I've had good luck with that cell phone.
Mayor, Council, I might ask you to give him a call.
Okay.
But hopefully we'll discuss that in election school. I think tomorrow they're going to get into the special election and bond issues, so hopefully we can hash that item out there.
Ballpark guess would be 250, 300 signatures. Stand over at Smith's on a Sunday. Well, that's the day they
No,
don't.
that's Sunday.
Yeah. But we'll need kind of a, well, have to make sure, one of the questions would be, are you a voter of Edgewood?
And I
Citizen.
don't know how much money is going to be. I'm sorry. Just
That's
let
okay.
someone talk to you about that.
Yeah. It's good to know. So if that's it, then we'll move on to those action items. Number 4 here, A, sewer system collection line design decision.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to request that you recuse yourself from voting on this issue because of the Bassett family properties that have potential for over 2.5 miles of easement that would benefit that property. Until we know the value and expense that we might have to go to putting easements on private property, I think it would not be good for you to vote. I'd hate for you to be in the same pickle that Mr. Philip Griego finds himself in.
True that, but there is a little bit of a chicken-egg situation here. Where do you tell somebody to go look out prices?
I think that there is a precedent, Mr. Mayor.
No,
And
but I mean,
think
on this map here, where do we tell them to go?
we tell them to ask the mayor or a member of the Bassett Family Trust what the town of Edgewood paid for an easement from 344 to, what's this road right here, Cactus? On Church Road, because I understand that the town of Edgewood found themselves in a position where they had to negotiate or threaten eminent domain on a Bassett property that was at least 1/4 mile long on Church Road and a pump station site. And so I would like to know what the town paid for those. And we could use that as a guide, that plus the lengths of the easements that would be on the private property. That would give us some notion of the potential expense of those easements.
Problem is, we haven't decided to go there.
That's right.
So where do
But
we
it's
send
part of
somebody
the
to
whole
go look?
package. It's part of the whole package. So we have,
So do we do that up in these other areas?
I think that we have the whole plan, that you would not be serving us well to vote on any of it, because should we choose to go
Yeah, I
there,
was looking. And are these all the same?
It's every,
Yeah.
this is one plan with components, if I understand it. We're being presented with options.
Send them down.
Is that one packet?
I think it is.
That's an entire packet. Keep it together.
Oh,
So these were delivered in this evening.
These, I'm sorry, these are,
This came in this evening. So if you go to that page 1 of 1, go to the very bottom down here. Cody has sent over this thing that says he used a unit cost of $10,000 per acre for easement for cost purposes.
okay.
And
Oh, that's another reason why we can't vote on this tonight.
width of the easement may be decreased for the purposes of cost. It was estimated that a 40-foot wide easement would be obtained.
$10,000 per acre.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Mayor, I would again like to suggest that we table this until we have some time to get information on what the wastewater design is going to be. I think we just need to do a little more research before we do anything. I would like to table this until the end of the year to give
Mayor,
us some
Council,
time to research.
if I may, with that request, we will stand chance to lose our funding and have it clawed back since it is on legislative appropriations. We are coming on to up to a deadline, and if I recall, last year they froze it, I want to say, 60 days out from the legislative session, and anything that wasn't obligated was clawed back, or even, I'm not sure on this one, but I did hear of some that were obligated, but there was no movement, were clawed back as well. So,
And how much money do we have at risk?
we have our design money, I want to say 600, Carla, do you recall the amount?
664,000.
664, and then we also have the 2016, which is
It's 100 and,
300, it's 300 and,
okay. Yeah, it's-
I don't recall offhand, but I believe it's like 330,000 offhand.
I thought it was less than that.
For that, the 16, and then the 14 should be completed with the technical memo.
That was the small one.
And so, we'll just keep that in mind, Mayor Council, that is at risk of, if it's not expended, to
Trying to get it
possibly.
encumbered, yeah.
Okay, what about looking at the design for the expansion of the service on to the area south of Route 66, which already has all the easements in places and could be completed with that entire amount of money. The estimate on that was $583,000 as opposed to $720 for the other one.
Mayor Council, keep in mind on the legislative appropriations, the design portion, the 660 that is what the design for the system is pledged to. So the construction money would actually just be the 300.
Right. Right, and I'm saying, why not look at designing the Route 66 area where our commercial corridor is, where we already have some collection lines in there, where we have had requests for service, and appears to be more affordable, and we don't have easement issues.
No
Right.
customers.
Well, Mayor Council, also keep in mind, the design is for the entire area.
Right. And that's where we go back to getting the residential.
And then as funding becomes available later, the governing body can decide where they want to actually put pipe in the ground. But this is just to have a design ready on the shelf.
The research that I've done so far shows that our plant was designed for commercial flow, not residential. Residential would be added as new construction came in to accommodate multifamily housing and apartments and things like that, was from what I have, my current level of research is showing.
Well, we have been told we need to get to residential for the dilution of. That's one of the things, plus we need paying customers.
Right, and I also,
Will the hotel not satisfy the residential?
Well, that's one customer.
I spoke with someone who, someone recommended we recycle some of that water that we're having to pour on the ground right now back through to delete the strength that's coming in. The other thing is, if we enforce our ordinance along the commercial corridor, we will increase some customer base. And the other thing is, maybe we really need to look at trying to encourage multifamily housing development, which would provide that new customer base without having to design solely for customers who currently have functioning systems.
Well, that was always the thing they were going to have to do anyway, was attach onto these people here that have functioning systems. That's been in the works for a long time.
And that brings us back to, in front of those, on the north side of of Church Road, in the Duncan Road area, we have a sewer line in there now. I don't know if it's on the north side or the south side. I believe it's on the south side.
South side of Church.
So we have easement there already. We could parallel that line, or would we have to increase the size of the line that's there? I thought there was a 12 in there. 12-inch line.
Where are you talking at?
Okay, on Church Road, between Quail and Williams Ranch.
There is currently a 12-inch line according to this map.
Okay. That's right.
Sanitary that's in there, I believe, is 8-inch.
I beg your pardon?
The gravity one here, I believe, is 8-inch, and then it goes down to the 6-inch forced main from the existing lift station.
It's 12-inch from this. Okay, gravity.
Okay. According to this map that I have from Dennis Engineering, which was provided by Carla, when I asked for a map of the current system, it shows in red, which would indicate a 12-inch sewer line from 344 down past Quail Trail.
And then across from Quail
Quail Trail, all the way to the lift station, almost to
Is
Williams
12.
Ranch Road.
And then does it drop any to an 8-inch from the lift station to Williams Ranch Road?
That's forced main in there.
Okay, so forced main, an 8-inch could carry that, right? What is the diameter? I can't read.
Says it's a 4-inch.
Oh, it's a 4-inch forced main, okay. And a 6-inch reuse water to wastewater treatment plant.
I'm just saying, my concern is that we're designing collection lines all over the place. We're disregarding what our plant was designed for, and we're disregarding the customers who are requesting service. If we follow the recommendations of Smith Engineering, we're designing lines to customers who don't need service.
And
If we need domestic or residential flow, it's been recommended, test it, see if that helps. It may not help. It's not going to do anything about the hardness, which is from what I have been understanding, is the major problem with our cassettes, is they clog up with, as we all know, the gunk in Edgewood water.
They do, but they also gunk up from stuff that goes through that crappy screening system.
They do.
Right.
And as part of the PER and this wastewater treatment technical memo, both of those say we need to address that issue. But all of that, in my opinion, needs to be addressed before we design collection lines to a plant that may not ever function any better than it does right now. I just hate to waste money when we could design a collection line to customers who are looking for it in an area that the plant was designed for, and use that money, to me, much more efficiently than the design that we are being offered.
Well, you're forgetting that this is a design for the entire service area, and that this is a phased design.
Right.
So picking the area of most economic and expedient development is sort of our purview. So if you're suggesting that the Route 66 area is the area that we need to concentrate on first, then lobby for it.
That is my recommendation.
And then too.
But do remember, we do need a customer base. Remember also that adding customers to this in a large way will help with the current problem of deficit spending for our sewer system. We need customers to help offset our costs.
And
We have been subsidizing the cost of our sewer system for at least 10 years.
Which is what I'm trying to prevent us happening in the future, is designing lines that are not going to be used most effectively.
And that would indicate that we develop an area with the largest customer base.
Right. And,
So where is the largest customer base?
well, I don't see any there on Bassett property.
Quail Trail
Well,
area.
how about the Quail Trail area? How about the Duncan Road area? How about Edgewood 7 area? Where residents are is the most concentration and the most customers.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, you know, there's a very fine line between doing something for somebody and doing it to them. And in many ways, our sewer line in the Duncan Road area will hit those people with a very heavy financial bat.
Yeah.
And I don't see that forcing people onto a line where they're obviously, they have larger tracts of land, the concentration of people in that particular region, I think that probably 1.5 acre lots is the common, or maybe 2 acre lots, is common along the north side of Church Road, Church Street further to the west of Quail, back to Cactus Road. That's not heavily enough concentrated. Most development is driven by subdivision because everything is new and everything goes in at the same time. We don't have anyone currently looking to make a nice large development in Edgewood except that property north on Dinkle Road. And that's too far from our line. And they specifically chose to not design for that. It was omitted. But the businesses, the more businesses you have, the more you invite development. And in the past, development has not been a popular word in Edgewood. So I really question, the only alternative that I see that's even workable would be one of them. But we have a whole packet here, and I can't see where you are going to be able to vote on that. I think you've got to
Well,
recuse
again,
yourself.
You're saying, are we going with that or are we going somewhere else? I mean, it comes down to the thing of a recommendation that we get more customers, residential to Duluth, and you've got the line laid there in Church Street. Not a decision I made. Biggest concentration of houses is in that Quail Trail area. When it comes over there to where the Key Place is, and mind you,
Mr. Mayor, you keep referring it to the Key Place. Who is the title owner?
well, my mother, I guess, the Bassett
Okay.
Trust.
The Bassett Trust.
Okay.
Okay, let's refer to it as the Bassett Trust. Refer to it as what it is now. In your memory, it's the Key Place, but if you remember, I didn't understand that at all because I didn't know the Keys, did not know that
So you
history.
understand then that when the water flows out through there, that property's there. My dad bought that property 15 years before I was born. So I didn't have any choice on where the property got situated.
That's true, but you are now
So
mayor
when
of
we
the
look at
town.
this, we look at it coming out there and it's got to find a way up to that line along Church, correct?
Right.
So it's not me seeking anything there, that's the natural drainage outlet, then you've got to run it somehow to that line up at Church.
However, Mr. Mayor, you don't want to be in the same position as Mr. Griego is
I don't
today.
think I am.
Well, unfortunately, you are, in the eyes of perception, you are a member of the Bassett family.
I
Therefore, you
understand
have
that.
influence, and people close to you do stand to,
Here's what you need to consider. Duncan Road area, if something's done over there, it's been proposed to us that the existing lift station might need to be moved down to that draw in the bottom there, or another one built there. When they were coming out of up here on that Robin Court alignment, that was one thing there. It would go down to a lift station there.
I'm sorry, I don't see Robin Court, which is Robin.
That's up here at the south end of the Bassett Trust property.
Robin Court is,
The Robin Court alignment is dangerously deep.
Yep, it's deep.
Okay.
And it'll probably require some kind of lift station, whether it's moving the existing one or setting up another one down there in that low spot on Williams Ranch, north of Church. So there's a lot more that goes into that Duncan Road area. That leaves the Range Road and the Quail Trail area is the greatest concentration of residential and closest proximity to that line up at Church, east of Quail. You see how they've proposed to go from either one of them to that line there.
Mr. Mayor, if I may. Regardless of the situation of property ownership, easements, or anything else, we actually have two decisions in front of us currently. Neither of them have to do directly with the acquisition or the direction we're going with the entire area.
Right.
The decision we have is, do we move forward with a design project?
Right.
And encumber the monies that we have received from generously, by the way, from our state legislature, hoping that the encumbrance is such that we do not have it removed out from under us, as they have done quite suddenly in the past. The next decision is, where in this service area should we focus our concentrations? And the reasoning behind that focus. So those are the two decisions I see that we have on this evening. Other than that, moving forward into the future, the discussion can be had for one of the alternative routes through the Bassett Trust area or around it, or how, there are different ways to skin this cat. There
And the other
are
thing
four
is,
options
none of
here.
this is going to be built tomorrow. We're strictly talking design.
We're talking design, we're not talking construction.
okay, but we're talking shovel-ready.
Well, if we get the money,
If the money,
Mr. Mayor,
we have to be ready.
I believe I was next. One of the things that this technical memo says is they are referencing 60 residents to be attached as within the year as part of their memo. And that would be on page, let me see. On page 6 of the technical memo, which states the new hotel at 80 rooms, new residential sewer system project, phase 1, 20 homes to be connected this year. So I do believe they are expecting us to build this thing. So my concern, so we have things to discuss, things on the table. I would like to make a motion that we encumber that money designing along the commercial corridor on Route 66.
Second.
Mayor, council, the design is for the entire service area.
I know, but I would like to start with that area.
Well, I would remind you, Counselor, that we have talked about paving East Church. The homes it's talking about there are connected to the line that's already there.
So connect them.
Well, but you're saying move everything over to Route 66.
No, I'm saying the design phase that we should proceed with next is along the Route 66 corridor, the commercial area that our plant was designed for, that we have customers currently seeking service.
Mr. Mayor, if I may. The encumbrances of the funds are for the entire design area. A decision needs to be made at some point relatively soon on an alternative route for the Quail Trail area and for the Williams Ranch area. It is incumbent upon us to decide which one is going to be the first phase to be built, but that is not part of what the design is about. It's about designing the area rather than designing a specific spot within the area. Constructing Route 66 area may indeed be the best plan for the nearest and most expedient way of getting customers. However, I don't know that there's going to be 20 businesses that are along that corridor that are going to connect. So if they're considering 20 homes, well, there's not 20 homes there, nor are there 20 businesses that are going to connect.
Mr. Mayor, I understood that the camp situation at the top of the hill had requested sewer service. And, you know, each one of those campsites are close enough to one another to constitute an equivalent of a home or more. As you pointed out, the hotel is one hookup, but if you take the equivalent of the sewage that will be generated from how many rooms are in that hotel?
80.
80? How will that translate into how many homes? You know, there is an equivalent there.
Yeah.
So the fact that one hookup is what you're speaking of, it isn't the same as the volume coming from it.
The issue, as I recall it being discussed with the camping facility, was that it would require pumping uphill to the existing line.
They were told there was no capacity. At last conversation with Mr. McCall.
Mayor, council, Mr. McCall submitted an incomplete application. We had asked him to provide the information required by the ordinance as to what would be going into the property. We needed to know that first because that's required by the ordinance as to what levels, you know, BOD, TSS, all that good stuff. Mr. McCall's response was he wasn't going to spend money unless he knew he was getting a connection.
Right.
But once again, it's a chicken egg situation. Our ordinance specifically calls out we need that information beforehand.
Was he consequently told that there is capacity after capacity was increased?
Mayor, council, the capacity comment came from Tom Torres at EPCOR. The town has never told Mr. McCall that we do not have capacity.
I believe I saw correspondence from Larry Sullivan indicating that there was no capacity. when he was the planning and zoning administrator?
Mayor, council, if that is the case, that is not the information I've seen. The only information I've seen was coming directly from Mr. McCall to Mayor Bassett and his incomplete sewer application.
So we also have an application from Mr. Mahoney over there. What is the status of that?
Status of that one is the check was returned to him and it's no longer considered a active matter
At his request?
at our request.
And can I ask why it was returned and not considered an active manner? I mean, they're requesting sewer service, and we're here saying that we're not going to design for that area. I don't understand what...
That area is in the design area.
It is, and like next to the last. All I'm asking is that we bump that to the first priority of the
Why?
design.
Why?
Because we have requests for service.
Show
and
me
our
how many
plant
are over
was-
there. Show
our
me how many
plant
are over
was-
there.
Our plant was designed for the commercial corridor, not for residential
And it's working in the
housing.
commercial corridor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I think we need to get back to the issue at hand. I'm concerned, as a member of the governing body, that we do our due diligence and perform our duties as good stewards of the funds that we have access to. Right now, we've got funding to fund this design, to fund a design. And I think we need to make a decision on this month, because I do fear with the situation up at the state legislature that the funding may go. And if it goes, then we're stuck with having nothing to work with for the future. We need to make a decision.
And there's a motion and a second on the floor.
And so I'd like to see us go ahead and make a decision on what's before us this evening.
I would like to request review of what the area and how did the area outline, how was that defined? Who defined that and how was it defined?
It was
Is-
basically defined in the PER, and as Mr. Mahoney noted, there may have been a little bit of change in this when Smith came on to do this, but it was basically laid out in there.
The addition of the Edgewood 7 area
I think
was
it's the-
added.
Yeah, that's the biggest change
Mayor,
to
council.
it.
Okay, so
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I believe we do have a motion and a second before us. I would like a restatement of the motion, please.
My motion is that we go ahead and encumber this money to design a collection system. However, I would like the priority moved from the 1AB, the choices that we have, to reflect the commercial corridor along Route 66, be where we begin with our collection design.
Let me say this one more time. We are designing the entire system, not one piece of it. The Route 66 area is a piece of the entire design. It will be designed with this encumbrance along with the rest of the area. That is not the decision before us tonight. It is whether or not to move ahead with the design. Other than that, at some point in the future, we need to figure out which one of these areas we are going to proceed with. And it is abundantly clear, Councilor Abraham, that you would like to move forward with the Route 66 area. I think that's fine.
Okay.
However, I don't think that should be part of your motion.
Well, when
So
I look
I will
at
ask
the-
once again if you might kindly restate your
look-
motion.
I look at the scope of design that was presented to us by Smith Engineering for us to make our decision, and what they want to know is, do we want option 1A, option 1B, option 2A, or option 2B? that is the decision they're asking from us tonight, Counselor Abram. So if I am just totally not reading what they presented to us, then I do not understand what it is that we are expected to make a decision on tonight.
Whether to proceed with a design based on one of the options for the alternatives. And what I haven't heard at all this evening is a discussion of the cost of those different options
I do
and
have,
the viability and extended costs for operation. Yes, I know, I have that.
okay, that, I believe that has costs and.
Yeah, but I haven't heard that discussion, nor did I see that discussion from last meeting. What I would like to actually do is discuss the task at hand, which is the design of the entire service area, and decide whether alternative 1A, 1B, 2A, or 2B would be the appropriate way to design. Or should we just go with, we will choose an alternative in the future? Design them all. Show us the cost difference. We can also do that.
Which is.
That is our prerogative.
It is, Mr. Counselor Abram. However, it was pointed out at the last meeting by our clerk treasurer that we might not ever build any of it.
True.
So why are we spending an inordinate amount of money designing for something that we may not ever do? And for us to have to choose from those four, I think the choice is much too narrow. And there's only one choice
Well,
we make.
I disagree. I mean,
Was-
Quail Trail
was-
and Range Road provides quite a bit of service out in there, a lot of customers and a lot of residential.
Any of them knocking on our door?
Not if there ain't something there to knock for.
Well, there's been a sewer line down Church Road for some time.
Were we tasked to choose from option 1A, option 1B, option 2A, and option 2B at the last meeting?
Mayor Council, that is what Cody, he had requested that the governing body make a decision on those as to which way he would like to go. But as Councilor Abrams stated, I mean, he can design the entire area and the governing body can pick that later if you like.
Or we can choose a different area, is what I hear Counselor Abrams saying. And my motion was to start with the Route 66 commercial corridor. Instead of a 1A, 1B, 2A, or 2B.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to do that. We'll do a roll call vote, start down on that end. Counselor Abrams?
I guess I'll vote in the affirmative, although I think this is a job for the entire thing. You're only going to encumber a small percentage of the total amount that we have available, so.
Counselor Simmons?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Counselor Holly?
Nay.
Okay, so then we say what? What was the outcome of that? That
Okay, we
we
now
tell
have,
Cody to design something?
We now have half of a design system, or a system designed, or actually probably a tenth.
but that gives us something that's shovel-ready.
Is there anything else to be done on this, Mr. Torres?
Mayor Council, the contract was already procured. I mean, the RFP was submitted by NMED to design the entire service area. You know, that is Smith's direction, was to design the entire service area.
And yet, we're understanding we're to choose from one of these four, or,
If I may, no, we were tasked with choosing one, or well, actually two of the alternate routes to serve the areas of Quail Trail and Williams Ranch. There are two alternatives for getting the effluent to the lift station, and the forced main. We were asked to decide between the two. There was no decision about designing anything but the whole thing.
Well, let's move on then. Item B, under action items 4. Public hearing, zone designations, quasi-judicial procedure, zoning designations for infill annexation area. And I think we've got it correct now, south of I-40 and infill annexation, north of I-40 and east of 344. So since this is quasi-judicial, let me get the stuff out here. Tom is up there.
I'll show you guys on the map here.
Ms. Mortensen, I need to request certification that public notice of this hearing has been posted as required.
Yes, it has.
This case is being heard under provisions required by the New Mexico Court of Appeals intended to protect the rights of all parties to the proceedings. Requirements include the identification of all parties and their witnesses and the swearing in of all parties giving testimony. The affected parties will have the right to cross-examine persons giving testimony. Confirmation of no conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts. Each member of the governing body gives confirmation. I will start. One of the property owners in this round of zoning designations is a cousin of mine, owns Bassett Quarry down here. I do not participate in any way, shape, or form in that. I don't think it would interrupt my ability to act on this matter, but you guys can tell me otherwise. Councilor Holly?
I have had no ex parte communication, nor do I have any interest in this matter.
Councilor Abraham?
I have no interest in this matter, nor have I had any ex parte communication.
Councilor Simmons?
I have no ex parte communication or any financial involvement with this property.
Councilor Abrams?
I've had no ex parte communication and have no conflicts of interest. The concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance as well as appearance. Therefore, I would like to ask if there is anyone present who objects to the participation of any member of the governing body in these proceedings. Seeing none. All persons wishing to give testimony in this hearing, please rise now and be sworn in at this time. Anybody else want to speak?
Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give tonight is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Mortensen, could you give us a brief overview of the subject of the public hearing, what is going to be going on here?
Yes, Mayor, Council, may I show you on the map what we're talking about? Tonight, we will be discussing and zoning. This is quadrant 1, south of I-40, right here. And quadrant 2, north of I-40 and west of 344. So these are the properties that we'll be discussing in your packets. I've given you an Excel spreadsheet that breaks every one of them down by acreage, zoning, address. And then I also took each section out and showed you on a map, showed you the addresses, showed you the acreage, showed you the zoning.
So it would actually be west of 344.
Sorry, did I say west, east, west? Yeah.
Okay.
Also in your packet, I gave you sections that we would talk about, if it was R1, R2, each section, if it was commercial, if it was ag, if it was special use, so you would know what we were talking about. When you look at a zoning designation, you look at different things. You have to look at the zoning map. You have to see how it's going to blend in to make sure that you're not spot zoning. You have to look at the property to see what type of houses are in the area. You have to look at the acreage to make sure that it matches your ordinance. There's a lot of things that have to take into consideration, and I strongly feel that we did very well. We hardly had anybody come to the planning and zoning meetings to discussed, we did have a couple that thought that they should have different zonings. We sat down with them, worked it out, changed what they needed to change. If it worked, we changed it. So we've sent out letters to all those parcels for the planning and zoning meeting, and then we sent out another group of letters to the same parcels for this meeting tonight. So we're ready to go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm set up here for applicant. Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Mortensen?
I do. You know, I appreciated the length you've gone to. However, when I look at a page, it doesn't tell me what I can't cross-reference it necessarily. I'm used to something that we in real estate use. It's a zone atlas book that was produced by Mr. Oden. Now, that's unofficial. It is not recognized by Santa Fe County. Does Santa Fe County have a zone atlas that we could have? I know how to read a zone atlas, but I have difficulty cross-referencing some of these. I did attempt it, of course. And, you know, the fact that you've got section, township, and range, and parcel is helpful. And I can go to a zone atlas and pick it out quickly. But because these are not labeled as to what they are, other than it's in Vista Encantada, I still have to cross-reference back to my zone atlas to locate it. One of my concerns was that you couldn't put anything in the setbacks, and since we have some less than half-acre lots in R1, how will that impact them if there are already things within the setback outline? Now, there's two governing documents here. There's the covenants for subdivisions, and not everything is a subdivision, I realize. And then there will be the town easements. But in those half-acre lots, do they have enough room for the particular dwelling they have, or will they become non-conforming because of the setbacks and possible encroachments in the R1?
Those properties that are less than 1 acre are grandfathered in. They're non-conforming. They'll always be non-conforming. You can't, even if they were to change it, they're still going to be non-conforming because they can't grow. So
you can't add on to your home in
Well-
a logical fashion necessarily. You're stuck with what you
no,
got.
no, that's not necessarily true. We would have to work with those properties. I mean, like, take for instance Prairie Hills. All of those are smaller, and the reason behind that is because they have their own sewer system over there. But no, they're non-conforming lots, but we can't tell people, no, you can never add on again. I mean, we would have to work with them. Everything is, like always, a case-by-case basis, and we'd have to look at what their setbacks are, and we'd have to work. We don't have anything in our ordinance that deals with anything under an acre.
Yeah, I realized that, and that was my concern, because, you know, there's the spirit of the law and the letter of the law, and they're not always, they can be in conflict. Mm-hmm. And from my point of view, the spirit is the greater good. So that was my question.
I have a question about when you say grandfathered in. What happens if this property sells? I know sometimes grandfathered in means only as long as you own it.
Well, in the case where it's smaller than 1 acre, like I said, that's going to be always a non-conforming lot because it's not going to get any bigger unless they were to buy the lot next to it and take the lot, vacate the lot line. When we talk about grandfathering in, say we've got a property over on Mustang that has 2 dwellings on it and it's on 1 lot, it's not subdivided. That's grandfathered in. If they were to sell it and move those off and want to do something similar, then they would have to abide by ordinances and things like that. So that's what I mean by grandfathered in.
Okay, where does it say that they will forever have that protection of grandfather?
Well, I don't think we have, I mean,
Yeah, I think she said, what she meant was that if it changes
if
hands.
it changes hands.
Then it could change.
Then grandfather could die.
Well, if it changes hands and they demolish what's on the property and rebuild,
Yeah.
that would change the nature of things because they would go for construction requests and approvals.
And then.
So what's
and-
there now is there now. If they need to add to it, once again, it's a non-conforming lot, so they would have to come for construction approval. And those approvals would have to be, approved.
And let's say there was a fire
Mhm.
and it burned to the ground. It's a non-conforming lot, then what?
And they were going to rebuild the same way?
Well, they're going to
They-
rebuild. They
Well,
have a non-conforming lot.
I
Can
think-
they build?
they can build, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm just like, I've never thought of somebody losing their house and it being, by a fire. I mean, it's usually something that is their decision, it's their choice to do. A fire is kind of an
Right,
odd
and
thing,
they're acts of
example.
God,
Yeah.
And so I would like grandfather.
Reconstruction, I think reconstruction with the same footprint would not be,
Yeah, we wouldn't turn it down.
However, that may be an obsolete footprint too. So once again, I would like to know that a person could rebuild within reason, a reasonable dwelling. I don't think the same footprint if it's an obsolete footprint, and there could be. For example, and what brought all of this to mind is a property where the town improved someone's driveway, and they're stuck with a mobile home as is, which is not in very good shape, and could suffer condemnation. And then they have this tiny lot they can't sell, it's non-conforming. And so, let's say they didn't build, then you have a non-conforming lot. So I would like a better explanation of grandfather, that, in case of acts of force majeure, that's another term. Outrageous fortune. There is an alternative, and these lots existed, so the lot is still a residential lot. Thank you.
And I have a question. Some of these lots are like 2-acre lots, 6-acre lots. Would those people, because they're zoned R1, be able to subdivide those in the future?
Yes, ma'am.
My question for you, Tanya, is you've got on several of these drawings and stuff here, you've got lines drawn. I assume that is stuff that's already in the town?
Yes, it
And
is.
the open ones are the ones that are for consideration?
Yes.
And I truly do appreciate the lengths you've gone to help me find my way, and I still got lost.
I'm sorry. I honestly thought I thought of everything. But once again, you can't think of everything.
The town may want to invest in the zone atlas, but
You
they're
know,
very,
there is a copyright law here. I brought this for my use, but if the county's got one, does the county have one? Do they have zone atlases like these that Tim Oden's provided?
Best thing we've got that they have is that assessor's website with all the lots on it.
Mayor, council, actually, we pulled all this information from the information the county gave us. They gave us a big data dump from all their GIS stuff, and so the information we have on the infill annexation is directly from the county.
Yes. And we
On
get
their,
everything. We get
GIS stuff.
the,
Would you like to look at mine?
maybe, yeah, through the meeting, sure. We have a snipping tool that we take, and we took that right off of the assessor's map, and all the information came from there.
Well, and of course, there's the copyright. Mr. Oden, to my knowledge, has never indicted anybody over it, because it's a tool in real estate, and I think it's so easy for people to recognize, you know, you can go from this, your description right here, to this with ease. So, anyway, please feel free to look at it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so you did meet with all these property owners and they are okay with the designations being?
I did not meet with them. They were invited to the meeting. We had a small handful show up each time. But yes, if there was a problem, we definitely met with them. Otherwise, everyone seemed fine with it. In the letter, we gave them the section that if they were being designated R1, we gave them the section from the ordinance that explained that. We had some people call and ask questions, what that meant. So.
This is a public hearing. Has anybody from the public got any questions for Ms. Mortensen?
That whole area is going to be R1?
No, there's different, each area has something different, yeah. Just whatever property you're concerned about, I can tell you what it is.
You've got a question for her, or?
Yeah, I'm in TRS.
Come up to the microphone and give us your name and address.
Give your address, I'll tell you what it is.
My name is Stephen Toledo. I live at 23 Vista Verde Way.
You're R2, I remember that.
So I was going to say the same.
Yeah, you're R2.
Were there many of them that actually changed their designations from something to something else?
We took one off, and that's going to be in quadrant 3 that we have to readdress. There was a minor subdivision down over there, and they're wanting their lot to be commercial, and we have to have some discussions on that because of their driveway access issues. So there's only one that we didn't put back on. There was Mr. Johansson that was here earlier. He explained on his property, because we had his all commercial, because he's right on there on 66. And as you can see, everything on 66 is pretty red. So he explained that only a portion of his property should be C2, and it's a very small portion because there is a draw that goes through there, and then the rest of it's agricultural. So we changed that for him.
If nobody else from the public wants to ask any questions, I'll close the public portion of the hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I do have one question. Tierra Vista was part of the infill annexation,
Yes, ma'am.
correct? Okay,
Quadrant 2.
okay. Well, you'd find this interesting. These are 1 square mile. Nice. Here's the official one if they have. I've never had an opportunity to buy one.
Council, I'll entertain a motion on this group of infill annexation zone designations.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the zoning designations for the infill annexation area south of I-40 and the infill annexation area north of I-40 and west of Highway 344.
Oh, west, not east.
Second,
Second.
any more discussion?
Yeah, whoops.
Otherwise, I don't know what else to say on it. It's pretty thorough, pretty spelled out there what's what. Anyway, the motion has been made to approve zone designations, infill annexation area south of I-40, and infill annexation area north of I-40 west of 344. We'll do this on a roll call vote and start on this end. Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilor Abrams?
Aye, and I'd like to add, I appreciate the thoroughness of your,
Especially since you didn't add this to it.
Thank you.
Thank you, council. So with that one done, there's one more then to do on it. And that would be number C here. Consideration action, Town of Edgewood Ordinance 2017-04, making an amendment to the Town of Edgewood zone map up there. And this one here is kind of done up like that one y'all did with, what'd you call it? Brad was in here, he did that.
When we found all the errors.
Right, and did that big mass bunch. So on this one here, it's pretty much got every one of these that is in this outfit spelled out specifically for tonight's festivities.
I do have a question. Are we going to go ahead and change the map now, or are we going to wait until we get them all done and get one map printed?
How did Maida, Sandy?
I told him that I'd send it to him as we got it approved. I didn't want to wait. We talked about doing all of it at one time, but there's just so much that I thought it'd be easier to do two at a time. Quadrant 3 is going to be a standalone. That was a monster. So we'll probably do, the next one will be Quadrant 3, and then the next one will be Quadrant 4. So I'm going to send, when this is all done, I'm going to send all of it to Maida. It's in a spreadsheet. It's ready to go.
She's got the map on a computer, so it shouldn't be too hard for her to.
Yeah, she's ready for it.
Okay.
Yeah, that zone map up there. Yeah, it's all in white pretty much, the infill that we're looking at here.
Yeah.
So it'll be a matter of putting color, I'm thinking like Tierra Vista over there. And then down here on the bottom, and that stuff up in Bella Vista that's all white. That should be pretty easy for her to paint that in. So I will entertain a motion then to do something with ordinance number 2017-04.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 2017-04, an ordinance amending the Town of Edgewood, New Mexico official zone map.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the adoption of ordinance number 2017-04, an ordinance amending the Town of Edgewood, New Mexico official zone map. For the record, I'm not going to read them all out, but how many are on here basically?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Mayor, I couldn't tell you.
It's a
Hundreds.
mass effort here with a lot of little lots. But anyway, that's what the motion is. So again, we'll do a roll call start on that end. Councilor Abrams? Aye. Councilor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Thank you, council. Put this one away. And the next item, so we're out of public hearing, all that on that one. The next item is public hearing. This is a master plan amendment. And this is an amendment of our zoning ordinance. Let me run down this one real quick. Request certification of public notice of this hearing by the governing body has been posted as required. Ms. Mortensen?
Yes, it has.
This is a legislative public hearing called for the purpose of considering amendments to zoning ordinance 2014-02, last amended October 18, 2017. Proposed amendments concern Section 24 MP master plans. Requirements for a legislative procedure differ from quasi-judicial procedures in several important respects. Members of the governing body may conduct their own research into the proposed changes. They may consult with members of the public outside the meeting and may advocate for personal opinions and/or those of constituents. Next thing is confirmation by members of the governing body that they have no pending land use applications which might benefit from proposed changes to the ordinance. We'll start on a roll call. Counselor Holly.
I have no pending land use applications.
Counselor Abraham.
I have no pending land use applications which could benefit from this change.
Counselor Simmons.
I have no pending land use, I'm sorry, application.
Counselor Abrams.
I have no pending land use application.
For myself, I have no land use applications, no pending land use applications at this time either. Concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance, and to that end, all public input and governing body deliberations will primarily consist of remarks about proposed changes. References to historical and/or legal context are appropriate so long as they are clearly related to one or more of the proposed changes. Furthermore, all discussion will be offered in a manner which is consistent with the Town of Edgewood's adopted resolution for conducting business. All persons wishing to give public input concerning the provisions of the ordinance being considered for amendment tonight are not required to be sworn in, since adoption of an ordinance is a legislative matter. For those of you wishing to give public input, your input should be confined to the issue at hand and limited in length so as to allow for other speakers to comment as well. Ms. Mortensen.
Yes, sir.
Give us a little history and a review of what it is you've brought here tonight.
When going through all of the zoning ordinance, I found some places where we had left off a number, like in section 24, letter B, it doesn't call out R2 in the permissive uses, but it does in conditional, so we just added that there. On E, master plan requirements number 2, we took out county or other utility, we put in water company. And on the third page, number 7, documentation confirming that the applicant has legally sufficient interest in the property proposed for development to use in the manner requested. And we just wanted to call out what it was, such as a document showing true ownership or legal verification, instead of having under oath.
I would just like to request that from now on, all changes be marked in red that are brought forward to us.
I did. I don't know why yours isn't red.
Yeah, I would like my copy to be in red, please.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got lost right off the bat.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It scanned in color. So there's that. Under F, district standards, all we did here was add the words planning and zoning twice rather than just putting commission. And really the biggest significant change is the very last page, number 12, letter B. We put in here, instead of just any increase in density or intensity, we put any change in density or intensity requires an amendment and approval by the planning and zoning. And the reason for this is when you have a master plan, it is a contract between the applicant and the town. And if you have an applicant that says, oh, I'm not increasing the density, so I can change it up, it's kind of breaking the deal that you have. So what I want to see is when we have master plans, say like, Campbell Ranch is going to be coming soon sometime, I want to make sure that whatever they originally made the deal with, that if they're changing it, we need to have an amendment to it, and the town needs to have a say in it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Because there was a lawsuit about what rules they applied under, you're going to have to be very careful with that. And one more thing, I noticed density is capitalized.
Oh, sorry, I can change that.
Big nitpick.
It's fine. And that's it. That wasn't too bad of a change, but important, I felt.
Mayor, Council, if I may, the mistake was mine on the copying. I must have hit just copy instead of changing it to color, so I do apologize.
Thank you. Thank you. So this requires a motion to approve, right?
Well, it's public hearing, so if anybody from the public would like to discuss it. Anybody? Okay, seeing none. Yeah, you want to make a motion on it, Counselor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the amending the zoning ordinance of the town of Edgewood concerning master plans, Section 24, master plan zone.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve proposed amendments to Section 24 master plan zone as shown tonight on this handout from Tanya Mortensen. Let's do this one on a roll call as well. We'll start on that end. Counselor Abrams?
Aye.
Counselor Simmons?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Thank you, Counsel. And that leaves us then just with item E, findings, fact, conclusions of law. And this is the matter of an appeal of a decision made by the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town of Edgewood, of an application for a minor subdivision by Jonathan Pillars. Council, this is one here that we've had a couple things come to us. I wanted to share them with you. I think you've probably seen them on the email.
Mr. Mayor, I cannot get into my email. I am not getting what I'm paying CenturyLink for. I even asked Mr. Torres to see if he could get into the email, and he couldn't. And I thought he had magic touch.
He does got some pretty good touch.
Well, he certainly solved my problem tonight. I didn't have James's phone number.
There's 4 handouts there. The first one is from Janelle Turner. She sent us in a letter regarding Counselor Abraham and whether or not she should vote on any of this stuff. She couldn't be here tonight. You can go down through it and look at it there.
I do have one comment. Actually, I have several, but I will make them to Ms. Turner. I spoke with Randy Van Vleck today, and he said that they have removed the power to force anyone to recuse themselves. Even if we all voted for it, I could not be forced to recuse myself.
That's why we got to get us a policy on this stuff.
Well, and Mr. Mayor, you know, I recognize that we are public servants and that we are targets for any kind of abuse, physical, mental, written, whatever. But I think this is over the top, sir. Just think what good this could have been if this had been a positive effort.
Well, it does point out some stuff that's happened, though, and raises questions about it. We're going to have to deal with it. That's why I handed this one out. Go ahead.
The other thing was, after talking last time, you brought that documentation from that attorney
Right.
that you had been to. I did contact you and see if I could get his contact information. When I Googled him, I found him, he died in 2013. So I talked to our attorney, which is what I would have thought would have been your first line of contact to discuss site visits. He did imply to me that even though municipalities do it, he thinks it's a bad idea. He
Which
couldn't
one
be
of our
here
attorneys?
tonight. Randy Audio, that he was on his way to Taos, but that he feels it's a bad idea. Also spoke to Mr. Van Vleck about it. He said it just opens us up for, if we were to go out, even if we all go in a group and we don't say a word, I may see something that is not being introduced as part of the testimony by the sworn witnesses that may cause me to interpret something differently. It may be the color of the moon or how many trees are around, but the recommendation is we rely solely on the testimony provided in the hearing by the sworn witnesses. That is what I'm comfortable with. That is what, I mean, with all this rigmarole and everything else, I would have never gone to that site had it not been on the agenda. But because it was on the agenda, I went to that site and looked. Believe me, that will never happen again. And I do have that right. If I feel like I cannot judge fairly and impartially based upon the testimony being presented in the hearing, then that is my right.
And to that, I would say I found it very useful, as I've done when we were on P&Z and stuff. Counselor Simmons, I was talking to you, that's why we even looked at doing a site visit. It's a thing where you've got the applicant there, they're waiting for something, and if the old adage is that a picture's worth 1,000 words, a site visit's at least worth 10,000. It was a lot of help. Toward that end, yeah, attorneys, they'll give you, you ask 10 attorneys, they'll give you 10 opinions. That's why we need to come up with a policy. It's up to the body. I mean, it's not up to attorneys. They'll give you all kinds of opinions on it. What I sent along or asked you to look at here tonight is on the findings of fact and conclusions of law. At the last meeting, no action was taken on this, and I think that was wrong because you can disagree with the decision made, but in this instance, the applicant is like the customer, and once a decision's been made, we owe it to them to get it out as quickly as we can. This has resulted in another 2 weeks in the delay for him to get there with the thing so he can do whatever it is he's going to do next. Again, as with the previous handout, Counselor, this is something I picked up back in my days on planning and zoning. I don't know which dead attorney might have written this one. We've seen a lot of attorneys back in those days when we were going to trainings. Page 4, at the lower bottom there, pretty much the last paragraph. It is imperative to note that the decision announced by the commission, and that's, as you'll see in here, that also applies to governing bodies, cannot be enforced unless and until the written order containing the findings of fact and conclusion of law is prepared and filed with the appropriate authority. In some cases, this might be a few days or a few weeks. Either way, you need to get it back to them in a timely manner. And this is just to help you guys understand what the importance of findings of fact and conclusions of law. Like I say, you can, voting to approve them, that's a good thing to do. I mean, in other words, if you had a problem with them, something materially in them was wrong, bring that up. If it's just a thing of, well, I didn't vote for the decision, so I'm not going to vote for this either, I think that's a disservice to the applicant. I've heard both you and Counselor Simmons admonish staff not to make any delays, unnecessary delays for applicants. This is a 2-week delay. I think should have, unless you had, like I say, something materially wrong with what was in here, you could have went ahead and voted to approve it so we could get it out the door and he could begin his whatever next move is.
I agree, we could have, but we're also not obligated to second a motion if we don't feel like.
That's true, and I understood that. I didn't say anything, but like I say, findings of fact and conclusions of law are important to our decisions, and getting them out the door to the applicant in a timely manner is just good business.
And Mr. Mayor, another point of good business is being inundated by a lot of paper at the council meeting. We took that up with the attorney about what was given to us by the public at meetings, and we were given choices to, one of the choices was to ignore completely. My choice would be, I would prefer to have these in a timely fashion instead of at the meeting. At the end of the meeting, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that the Pillars Affair was not the spirit of the law at all. I think, I still grieve over it, so whatever you choose to do at this point, I grieve over what I saw as picking nits when they didn't need to be picked, when there are things that can be seen from the highway that are dangerous to the public on private property. You know, I think there's worse things, and I have no problem with people profiting from the fruit of their labor or the gifts they have been given. There's no problem with that. But I think sometimes we go to the nth degree to criticize the other guy when we are less than perfect. And I don't think that was such an imperfect request that he had presented.
Well, that's why we have it, the system we do. Everybody got to look at it, figure it out, take testimony and stuff. We took the decision we did.
And you know, I'm really quite relieved to hear the attorney's opinions, both ours and Municipal League opinions, about the site visits. Whether it's a useful tool or not, that's one thing. But I remember going to a meeting about a pot of money at the Environmental Department. And a group of about 30 to 35 people were told, well, bring us your application, we'll have our attorneys look at it. Senator Stuart Hill was there that night, and he said, and remember, for every attorney who tells you what you can do, or can't do, there's an attorney that will tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I appreciate the fact that we pay them for their intellectual properties, for their intellectual abilities, but we're the ones dealing in the odds.
I think it's just good common sense to have a policy, and like I say, that operating resolution we're running under is getting to be 5-6 years old. Juan and them went to that clerks conference, and they said about the same thing, that a yearly operating resolution would be a good thing. And setting out a policy for site visits so we all get on the same page. The individual site visits, you don't have any way, that's like us going in here to closed sessions. When we come out here and discuss what was talked about in there and stuff, that's our way. It all works on the honor system. So you're verifying for one another what we did and said in there. Same thing with site visits. Now, if all of us are there and we verify for one another that what we saw or did, you know, I mean, we're vouching for each other that, yes, this is just what we did. When you have somebody go by themselves, there's no way to vouch for them, what they seen, who they talked to, or anything like that. So the logic always was with site visits, you try to do them as a group.
And if you can't go, as in my case, I was not available to go. And I made the same mistake of going to a site that I couldn't go to when it was planned, and I didn't see a problem with going out and looking on my own, because this is a very small town.
Yep.
You know, I'm looking at an offense that's going to take place on Frost Road. I can see it coming.
At them numerous trainings we went to, that was often mentioned, that when we're in a small town, you know, it's hard to not drive up and down the street to the post office or something and not see what's being talked about.
Right, and you know, the other night at that social event, all of a sudden we were face to face. We scattered pretty quick, but we can be seen in public together.
Oh, we'd put up a notice of a quorum, a possible quorum, yeah.
So, oh, good.
Yeah.
So we're just doing that automatically because of the perceived. And that.
Had the thing of there won't be any official business discussed, so.
Right. Well, and I appreciate being reminded of that, because that was a lovely event, And I do hope that Mrs. Sue McCall's surgery on her hips worked out.
Mr.
Again-
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
If I may, the topic at hand,
Yep.
I would like to move, we approve the findings of fact and conclusions of law recommended in case number 2016 SUB 004, the matter of a minor subdivision for Jonathan Pillars.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommended order in case number 2016-SUB-004, Jonathan, a matter of an appeal by Jonathan Pillars for a minor subdivision. Do it on a roll call vote. Start on this end. Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
Nay.
Counselor Simmons.
Nay.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
We have a tie vote. Mayor votes aye. Next item is announcement, calendar review. Next regular council meeting will be on November 15th here at 6:30. Not noticed on here, but on the 10th here next Friday, the office will be closed for Veterans Day. Councilors, we also have, or we're trying to set up a possible legislative breakfast again this year. Check your calendars, December 12th. It's a Tuesday. It would be in the morning about 8:30. So
A breakfast, I'm sorry.
that legislative, like we had before, bring our representatives and senators in.
Okay, on the 12th, did you say?
That's tentatively. We're trying to set it for the 12th of December, a Tuesday morning, 8:30 a.m.
Oh, December, I'm sorry. I was
Yeah.
thinking November.
Yeah, no, it'll be December down at the bottom there.
Okay,
Right here.
thank you.
This whole month's going to pass pretty quick. Future agenda items. So Councilor Abraham wants a discussion.
On if we budget an amount, how is a different amount being paid without council notification?
And also, I might see if I can contact the guy up there at Santa Fe County Fire, see if they can come down and talk to you about your issue.
My issue?
Yeah,
The power, how they can, there's no checks and balance with their,
Yeah, how they can come in after an approval. I'd like to do some more research on that before you
okay.
invite the county.
There's a guy up there that, he's over Renee, but he's not the top dog, but he's been down a couple times to see us. He wanted to be kept informed of any stuff going on in the community, and if he's got a
I would
counselor.
like to research that a little better.
Okay,
Because this was comment made during the,
fair enough. We'll
And-
hold off on it then, but you let me know when you're ready, and I'll see if he'd come down and talk to us.
thank you, because they seem capricious and arbitrary.
Okay.
So, fire
That said and done then, next item is yours, Counselor Simmons.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Got a second?
We've had way too much fun tonight.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Time
8:29.